Welcome to 843 TV. I'm your host, Will Wareham with WHHI-TV.
And I'm your host, Lisa Richardson, and we're coming to you today from Lowcountry Montessori School in Beaufort. Our first guest is Mark Hobb, who is a secondary teacher here at the school.
Our next guest is Gina Zuberbier, who's also a secondary teacher at Lowcountry Montessori School.
And Rhonda Crosby, also a teacher on the staff.
And finally, the director of the school, Amy Horn, will join us. So stick around for more 843 TV.
Where communities come to speak.
843 TV, where Bluffton comes to speak.
Where Spring Island comes to speak.
Where Hilton Head Island comes to speak.
Where Beaufort comes to speak.
.843 TV,
where communities come to speak.
We're here now with our first guest, Mark Hobb. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark is one of the secondary trained teachers here at the Montessori School, and so we're looking forward to hearing about your role today. But first, for those viewers who may not know about Lowcountry Montessori, tell us about the school overall.
Sure. Lowcountry Montessori School is a free public charter school that's available to anyone in the state of South Carolina. We start at the primary level, so age 3, and we go all the way through this year's sophomores, or 10th grade, and we'll eventually go through 12th grade. And so our secondary program is 7th through 12th grade. So it's middle school as well as high school property.
Okay, and tell us, we're in Beaufort, and where exactly are we?
Houston. Where exactly are we in Beaufort? We are in the Port Royal area of Beaufort, very close to Paris Island, where the Marine base is located, just across the bridge. And a lovely, beautiful, expansive property.
Yeah, it is beautiful. It's fairly new, right? This is your first year in this facility?
Brand new. This is our first year. Our second year in existence. Last year, we were in a temporary facility. Yep.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. So now, it says here that you're all trained Montessori teachers. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
How is a Montessori training different from like a traditional teacher's training?
Sure, yeah, and it is quite different, so it's good to talk about. We go down to Houston, Texas for 2 full summers, and it's an immersive experience. So we are in the training for 8 hours a day.
Wow.
With an experience. Actually, the woman who runs the program created Montessori Secondary as a program about 25 years ago. And so she runs the program, and we go through all of the different subjects. We're generalists as well as specialists, so we're trained in every subject, but then usually, especially at our school, we've zoned in on specific subjects for certain teachers.
Sure, and that's probably part of the secondary element, because you get a little bit more intense with the subjects as you get older, right?
Exactly, yeah, you want to be more specialized and make sure that you're really hitting the subjects where the kids need them. So
how would a secondary Montessori education be different? You know, what would that experience be different than like a traditional high school experience?
Is that
Sure. This one's different in that we really focus on the whole child as opposed to a more traditional model that's more focused on getting a set curriculum to a child. So as in addition to all of the learning that needs to happen in a secondary program, we also look at things like emotional development and social development and how that plays into creating a person who is ready to tackle our world and what we need in the workforce.
And that's all part of the training, I guess, you receive in Houston, huh?
Right. Yeah.
So is that like going to school yourself while you're down there?
Yeah, it really is. It's actually a wonderful experience, and a little intimidating at first, because what she tells you right off the bat when you begin training, that it's going to be run as if we are in a middle school program again.
Okay.
And so even to the extent that they refer to the 2 grade levels that are there as 7th and 8th graders, because you go for 2 years.
Right.
So it follows the same model. And then even the process throughout the day, the way that we go through what we're learning in the subjects, follows the same format as what we carry out with our students in the program here.
Okay. And I understand that part of the Montessori approach is students helping other students. Is that right? Yeah. And that continues in the secondary approach, I guess, as well?
Absolutely.
That's something that fosters not only learning by the child who's receiving the tutoring or the learning, but it really helps hone the skills of the person who's providing the education, doesn't it, or the student?
Right, it reinforces what they've learned, and it also encourages interdependence, so that the students are coming out of the program learning how to work well with others. And that's a big feature in modern day businesses. They want people who are good at being flexible and working with other people.
That's right, yeah, you go to any business school and teamwork, you know, you're automatically put in a team.
Exactly, yeah.
So now, I mean, are you all like specializing in, I mean, is somebody specialize in math? Like, do you go to a math class? Do you go to an English class? Or is it part of a, is that how it?
Yes.
Oh, that was.
Yes, a typical day in the secondary classroom for the middle school, they start out together and we have a community meeting that's led by the students.
Really?
Where they address some of they share with each other things that are going on. They acknowledge what good things each other have done. They have a little bit of exercise together, some challenges, and then they move into a specialized class. In the mornings we specialize either in math or in language, and I'm the math teacher and Gina's the language teacher, and they enjoy that time together because they're sitting in groups, so they get a small lesson and then they have time to work together.
Right.
That's it's allowed for them to talk it out, to discuss different methods. How did you get that? What is your answer? Help me write this sentence. How does this sound? A lot of peer editing and just the collaborative effort in the learning process. And they really seem to enjoy that because even though you hear a teacher say something, it doesn't always process in that adolescent brain. And they're very social. They love the attitude of getting to talk.
Sure, sure.
You know, so that quiet classroom doesn't hardly exist in our school. And it works well. They enjoy that. And then they have a specials class where they have music or art, technology. We have a practical life coach that helps them with just the life skills, you know, gardening or putting together an engine or different things like that. So, and I left out one. Oh, Spanish, sorry, yes, and Spanish. And they have that, and then they have their lunchtime. Our favorite part of the day is right after lunch. We have a 30-minute time that's called personal reflection time, where they're asked to sit quietly. And we give them a prompt of something to write in a journal, or to sit and listen to music with no words, to just give themselves a chance to kind of calm and recollect. At first, they struggle with that.
Sure.
They don't know what to do with themselves. What am I, where am I, you know, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go?
Yeah.
After that, they have their second class of the day, and then we have, the end of the day is the third class that's either the science or the social studies.
Very cool. Okay, we need to take a quick break, but can you all stick around for another segment?
Sure.
Please stick around for another segment of 843 TV.
You have to.
Welcome back to 843 TV. We're now joined by Gina Zuberbier, who's a teacher here at Lowcountry Montessori School. Gina, thanks for joining us today.
Of course.
And so you kind of specialize in the language arts, is that right?
Correct, I do.
What are some of the language offerings here at Lowcountry Montessori School?
Well, at the school, through our specialist program, we offer Spanish and French. Spanish for the middle schoolers, and French is an option for the high schoolers.
Okay.
And then my specialty is English language arts, so you're more run-of-the-mill English classes.
And does that include literature, like composition and literature and that kind of thing?
It does. We, throughout the year, we will run the gamut from poetry to persuasive essay writing to literary essay, all of those genres of writing that are so important for people to be able to use to communicate effectively. Absolutely.
And, you know, I think that foreign language is becoming more and more important in our lives, and it seems like that this kind of community approach of, you know, that Montessori brings would be beneficial to the foreign language because you get to foster communication and conversation in that language between the peers. Is that right? Did you see a lot of that?
Absolutely. One of our emphasis, the things we emphasize is the idea of a global community. And so when we embrace the culture and the language of other countries, it not only brings that to our students, but it allows them to really get a glimpse into what other places in our world look like.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I wanted to ask is when I was in high school, I did not go to one Montessori high school. Test day was super nerve-wracking for me. Like a math test or a chemistry test or something. Do y'all have tests as part of your program?
We have assessments.
Okay.
We work in cycles in the secondary program, specifically in middle school. So we look at a theme, and then at the end of 5 or 6 weeks, we have what we call our assessment week, and that's where all of our testing, for lack of a better term, happens. But it's not so much a test as in, I'm going to ask you all of these questions and you have to give me all of the right answers and regurgitate all of the dates.
Right.
It's more of a show me what you've learned. And we're working toward what we call mastery, which is an ability to score 80% or better on these assessments.
So it sounds like the testing is a little different than a traditional paper standardized testings. Those aren't part of what you all do here, is that correct?
In our day-to-day offerings, a lot of what we do is that demonstration of knowledge.
Okay.
So through projects and project-based learning, we do a lot of that demonstration. And there are things that you just have to put on paper and ask questions and ask for a written response. But it's not the same kind of rote.
It's not a
memory.
finite answer usually. Some things are, but there's a lot of open-endedness to the questions because we're trying to see if they can creatively, use what they've learned to come up with something else. So it's not, like Jana was saying, it's not a memorized answer usually. And some kids will try to do that, and that's when you have to help them push a little bit beyond the box that they're normally used to being in.
Speaking of that creative learning that they have and hands-on, we have some neat materials behind us that they use in lower school. How did those transfer to the upper grades?
So in the upper grades, we're really looking for abstraction, the ability for our students to take these materials that they've worked with since they were 3 years old and take them to the formulas in math, and for one example is the trinomial cube, which in the lower grades is a puzzle.
And that's that box right behind you,
and that's
right
this
there?
one right here. And when they're little, they take it out of the box, and the goal is to put it back into the box and make it all fit, and everything is in its place. In secondary, there's a whole other level to that particular material, which Rhonda knows much more about.
In the mathematics, it's really more algebra-based, and it just helps them to visualize what they had as a little child in the lower grades and how they can use it now in the upper grades to come up with a formula for the trinomial cube. And they like, oh, well, this hits this and goes with that. And when they see letters, they now have something visual to put together. A squared and AB and C and all that just sounds crazy until you have something visual, concrete, to go with that abstract thought.
Right, and it really puts their learning into action.
Yes.
Rather than it just kind of being a concept that you need to memorize.
Right.
Well, this is very interesting stuff. We would love to have one more segment with you all if you're available. So stick around for one more segment of 843 TV from Lowcountry Montessori School.
Welcome back to 843 TV. Joining us now is Amy Horn. She's the director here at Lowcountry Montessori School. And also we have Rhonda Crosby, who's another one of the secondary teachers. Rhonda, let's start with you. We've talked about the classroom work as far as the languages, the maths, and all those. What about extra activities that the kids might be able to participate in? Clubs, maybe some of the arts? What other things does the Montessori program offer that a traditional high school may or may not offer?
We have a lot that are available in the other schools. We have a STEM program that is like robotics and working with engineering type things. It's a lot of fun. We have drama club, we have music, we have a running club. One of the things that's not offered in the traditional school would be the Model UN, the Montessori Model UN, where the students get to help me out with that one, Gina. She leads that one.
Yes, they are immersed in research of another country, and we're looking at global problems such as equality for women in the political arena. And we're looking at countries like China and how would China feel about that, and what can we do, again, as a global community to address these concerns about the rights of people around the world. So it's a really neat process that starts here and then culminates with a trip to a conference. The big one is in New York City, and then there's a smaller Midwest conference which we'll be attending this year in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So we're taking our group of kids who will be very aware of what's going on in our world, and they will go and have conversations and collaborate with other kids from across the nation to come up with solutions to these problems. Wow. And it's fantastic.
So true global thinking.
Absolutely.
Now, are these part of the daily curriculum, or is there after-school activities? How are those offered?
These are the after-school activities. And another thing that we do that I feel is really special to our program is, as Gina mentioned, we have cycles, themed cycles of work. At the end of those 5 or 6 week cycles, we have what we call an immersion week, and students get the opportunity to take field trips. We have guests come in, and we really immerse into the ideas that we've learned for that cycle. At the end of the school year, we take an overnight trip. We take all the secondary students for 2-3 days on an overnight trip, which is highly unusual for a middle school or a high school. Our high schoolers went on an overnight 3-day camping trip this year already to Hunting Island. And it's a great time for them to foster their relationships.
Absolutely.
It was fabulous last year because students said, I really had not gotten to know so-and-so, and it builds that community.
It does, and that's where the relationships really are formed, when you take them out of their environment, take them out of their normal place, and they get time to spend together, and that's a great opportunity for them.
So Amy, how many students do you have here now?
Currently we have 350.
Yeah.
Next year we'll expand to 400, and then at full build out we'll have 450 kids. So I think it's really interesting and unique that a child could actually start here at 3 years old and graduate as a senior in high school. And when I think about that in community building, and we have a culture here where, you know, we've got high schoolers that are going into the primary classes and working with those little guys, and mentoring across the board is really, it just builds an extremely tight community. And to see these kids grow and watch them as the years pass is going to be a really interesting journey, I think, for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, we're moving into the high, you know, you're building high school out now. Would a student who attends Lowcountry Montessori High School have like a GPA to show the college?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So there are grades and stuff?
Right. We don't do the traditional grades until they hit 7th grade. And still in middle school, we're looking for mastery.
Right.
So that it's a little bit different even there. But once we hit 9th grade, those children, or those students, start to accumulate a GPA. It's very traditional looking in the sense that they're taking classes, they're, you know, semester classes or year-long courses. They're getting half credits or credits, whatever suppose if they're going to do English 1, they're going to get full year credit for that.
Right.
They might take an elective where it's a half year credit, but they're getting a GPA just like any other traditional setting. The difference in the high school setting is just how we go about things.
Sure.
The methodology behind what we're doing is different, and really building that community. You keep hearing that word over and over, but it really is about that, and developing the critical thinking skills that those high schoolers are going to need when they go on to college. Really tapping into that. We're not just wanting them to memorize things, we're wanting them to think about solutions to issues in our community. Employees don't need kids that can just tell them facts anymore. We can go to Google for that, It's great to know these things, but we want them to be problem solvers and to think critically to have those skills to work with others.
Right.
And that's what I think our program does so well.
Absolutely.
And Amy, before we go, you've been growing steadily. You've got a great, beautiful building, and I see you've got another one coming up behind us. Do you want to tell us what's in store for the future?
Our third building and final, first phase of our building process is going to be completed this summer, and that will house our 2 primary classrooms, a multi-purpose space, the administration, counselor's office, nurse's station, and so we're excited about that. We've got plenty of room as is, but as we grow next year, we're going to need more space, and that's going to accommodate for that. So we're excited.
Lots of exciting things going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Amy, ladies, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for watching 843 TV.
Where communities come to speak.